I'm about a minute away from the house. Just had to stop at the store, grab me some snacks and stuff. But one of the things I was just thinking about is my biggest regret over the last 3 years was not staying under proper leadership. I think that several years ago I did begin to get offended because, after being online for some time and constantly having things thrown at me, having people say certain things, having people, speak, and it be a crossfire of information, people accusing people of being this and that. While it did start getting better because some people started to see that some of the things that we would speak on is true. And then, it started, getting a little bit worse because, some stuff played out online where, I had my heart broken. And then like this most recent thing, which, I think it was honestly meant to break my heart for good and to put me in a position to where, it would be hard for me to forgive people. And that's not me blaming the situation, but this is something that I figured out a while back because it really grieved me. Because number one, when the situation at first happened, I thought it was just, one person being affected by what happened, and the other person was just clearly, an evil person. And then, when I had realized certain things and I had seen, because I didn't start to notice like the crossfire. Well, I noticed it at me, but I didn't notice other people were experiencing similar things with, crossfire coming from different ministries and different things like that. And so, I thought one person was being clearly bad, and I thought the other person was just, getting picked on. My perspective has changed in some ways. I'm not trying to say that, any person in particular is, the bad person. I just realized that people were doing some of the same things to each other. And so that's what really grieved me over the past year and a half, more than anything, just realizing that I, hurt two different people. In that situation, I can say, looking back, and I think that's one of the reasons why, some of the things transpired at the end of last year. But, thank God I was able to see still to keep going. But it was just a lot of crossfire of information and accusing, or, now that I know this about a particular subject, let me speak about this. And then so, and trying to ignore it, because at times, I tried to ignore certain things. I became really good with certain people in particular because I think they started to understand my boundaries. I understood their boundaries, and then I understood as well that they were coming from, a good place most of the time, but we just couldn't seem to agree on certain things, mainly being political. But, some of those things, really dealing with that clouded my judgment and all of that. Just going through the ups and downs of that stuff. And then the main person that, I had been helping out, I end up falling out with because initially some personal things, and then I felt like, they were taking jabs at, a personal relationship of mine. And all of those things end up coming back to haunt me. And I started to see at some point, like in the summer last year, I'm like, all of this was meant to isolate me. And so one of the first things I started to think about myself, because there's a verse in Revelation where it says, the Antichrist would not desire a woman. And so I started noticing certain things, people making different assumptions and accusations around that time. And so as more things started to play out, I started to, just be more persistent in trying to get to the bottom of it and asking questions or throwing different things out there to try to get my questions answered, because apparently people, only respond by making videos on the internet. And so, getting too comfortable with that, I end up making some of the wrong mistakes, saying things about people that I should have kept to myself or until a later time or until other things was exposed, because I end up making myself look bad. But in seeing certain things played out and thinking that, I'm like, man, I feel like I'm trying to be spiritually framed, and just like I said, with the stuff that I had already been doing, I'm like, man, it's like almost like this online stuff became a trap. Like this is a trap. And at the end of the day, first, I was being accused of different things in front of the church. And then as I, was being shown things about a marriage and different things amongst a group of different women at a certain point. It initially started off well, but, as they started seeing certain things, I guess, me constantly, arguing with certain people, and then eventually me getting upset, at a particular person that, they really are fond of, and end up, offending some people. But I know my motives was well from the beginning, but completely being honest, going through that, and this is one of the reasons why I made the statement in the beginning about, keeping leadership, because I really believe that people were saying things for my best interest at the time. And I couldn't see it because I was blinded by trying to protect not only my self-image, but another person's self-image, instead of, ignoring it all together and just dealing with things as, stuff came together. But I felt like, just my response based on my experiences, I felt like I needed to come to the defense of myself. And, that's a lesson that I had to learn recently. But, that was the important thing with, I believe, having leadership around, having certain people holding me accountable. I started going to a church, end up going away from that, which I'm disappointed in myself in. But, I've been making steps to go back or to find other places to go to and not just deal with online ministries and different things like that. Because I do believe you should be involved in a local ministry, and you should be, doing something to, influence and affect your community directly, and not just have an internet presence. And so, with all that being said, going through all those things led to some of the responses. And while I do recognize that some of the responses was from my trauma and different things, in a moment I thought I was doing right. And so they led to other responses, and even ones recently. But, as the things happened towards the end of last year, as I seen certain things may not play out the way that, I had planned and different things, I started feeling like, I was getting a brand new start from even the one that I had thought that I had just started. Just certain things started to come back up. And, I still felt like I needed to defend myself. And, eventually I just gave up on it, because I'm like, this person or these people can't understand that, at times I know when I'm wrong. And at times I strongly believe that they're making stuff up. And, you know, at the end, we're gonna all find out. And that's what makes me confident. Um, Knowing that, okay, certain things that I have done wrong, like I said, with my responses and different things in the past, but, um, you know, there are certain things that I've also been falsely accused of because of my past. And I almost feel like, not comparing myself to Paul, but it's almost like an Apostle Paul situation. People assume that um, because my intentions were different, like I was hurt and I was responding more by hurt. Not saying I wasn't hurt recently, but in the beginning, I was definitely responding more with hurt. And so getting better from that and then being accused of being the same thing when I was actually sticking up for loved ones, it made me feel some type of way. And so, you know, the point of this whole message is sometimes we need certain people around us, especially if you're a woman, you need older women. If you're a man, you need older men in order to hold you accountable and to teach you things. Let the good things rub off and don't shy away from the bad things. Learn from their mistakes. Um, One thing I've heard is a wise man learns from other people's mistakes. And as I said before, outside of Christ, the Bible is a book of men's mistakes. Peace.